I got propositioned by a commander, you know.
Really? We will pay you whatever they pay you American, and I will give you one of my daughters. Let me go ahead and tell you about when I first started getting into ground fighting. Thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, whoever brought that up. Jesus.
Yeah.
Welcome in, my dude. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You look styled out, my dude. Is this an interview? Should I be asking where you see yourself in 5 years?
First off, I take this very serious. I know that what you're trying to do is nothing but high quality content. So I need to come in here showing that. So I want to come in here and represent Ravenclaw. You know what I'm saying? Just so that people know. They know what's up. As soon as they see me, they think Ravenclaw, high class, high quality. Let's go.
How would you describe yourself to somebody who hasn't like come across you on stream, hasn't met you yet, hasn't been wowed in by your charms?
You know what? That's a good question. Usually I just throw out that I'm just a loud brown guy. But for anybody else, I guess you would say that I am a variety streamer on Twitch. One-time competitive gamer for Street Fighter, Halo, and COD. I've actually won championships. Retired Air Force, 20 years, 1 month, and 11 days. But, who's counting? One-time amateur MMA fighter. Nice guy. Good chef. Probably one of the greatest unknown streamers you will never hear of.
I don't know where to start with that. One, you said MMA fighter and chef. Does that mean that you brawled a chef? Like when you say MMA, did you go back into the back of an Arby's because your little chicken nuggets were too cold? They weren't put on long enough, and so you went back and you just like tussled with a chef? Or were you a chef and you did MMA one time as well? Does that mean you're like, I'm one time defeated? Or
yeah, I used to do MMA. So first I started off in actual martial arts tournaments,
right?
And I've actually won like three gold medals in Kuksowan. So I actually used to fight, and then I transitioned into MMA. So I was doing a lot of training before, I ended up getting deployed and some other stuff happened. But that's what I was talking about, like amateur fighting.
Holy gee! So what kind of fighting was it? Because I used to do back in the day. I used to do Muay Thai, and I think that it's one of the main striking styles in MMA. Yeah. But what's the one that you did? It sounds like Taekwondo.
First, I started off in Shotokan Karate, and then I started competing when I transitioned over to Kuksulwan, which is a Korean martial arts, but it is closer towards karate than Taekwondo. I was wrestling when I was in high school varsity. I was pretty good, but I noticed that whenever we would get into fights, we would always end up on the ground. So a school had opened up. It was before they started doing the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So it was just Aiki jiu-jitsu, which was stand-up, and then it just went into, they just called it ground fighting at the time. But then that's when I started getting into that as well, because I noticed that there was a huge hole in my combat game.
You said one time, or is that like, are you talking about like I used to do it one time?
Oh, no, I used to do it at one point.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I used to do it at one point.
I thought you were disgraced, No.
No. I was actually doing tournaments for about 2 years, going to combat and then coming back. And then I was married at the time, so I was losing a lot of time between working long hours and then training for fighting. Because if you're going to fight, that's not just something that you pick up like once or twice a week.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks to get punched in the face. You got to train hard for it.
I used to come home bruised and bad because I used to do Muay Thai. So it was like Mondays, Wednesdays were kind of like technique and fitness. And then Fridays was a different trainer, and he would do what's known as traditional Muay Thai. And so we would just end up kicking each other's shins as hard as we can. So I would come back and my legs would be black and bruised. And there was one time, because I only lived about less than quarter of a mile away from the dojo, I would just walk home barefoot. I'd walk home in my tiny Muay Thai shorts because there's not much left to be desired in those shorts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're pretty small.
They're designed for mobility and not much else. I don't think there's much of a difference between underwear and Muay Thai shorts. And so if Google it at your own peril. But there was a point where I kind of went home and I couldn't climb the stairs. I was living in a house share at the time, but I was crawling up the stairs. I was going, and they came down because they thought I'd been stabbed. I was like, no, I just been fighting.
Muay Thai is no joke, man.
It's no joke.
Muay Thai is no joke. Orlando, Florida is where I started karate. But then when I started transitioning into Kuksowan and then the ground fighting, that was in Abilene, Texas. So they didn't have any Muay Thai schools there. But now that I'm retired, one of my dreams for retirement is that they have these like month-long training camps that you can go to in Thailand.
Oh yeah,
where it's like room and board, and I want to go for the full experience. Let me go ahead and tell you about when I first started getting into ground fighting.
Oh geez.
So I'm a really good stand-up fighter, really good on the feet. I had to learn how to get good on the ground. So I go into the school when we started doing the ground fighting, and I got cocky. I was like, hey, this is going to be pretty easy. You know, I'm a really good fighter. I'm just going to go ahead and light some people up. Because there was a time where I would just bounce from school to school. I would go to different schools and challenge people. I was that guy.
You
right?
weren't that guy
So
from the like, there's a YouTube video where a guy keeps going around and challenging people until one dude actually beats him.
Oh, no. Not like that. Not like that guy. I think that's Charlie something or other.
Yeah,
No. I was legit. You know, I was respectful. So I challenged a guy and we're in there fighting. The guy was smaller than me, which makes the story even better. But, you know, I'm lighting him up, doing my punches, my kicks, and doing my thing, right? Really good with the hands. Then he did some combos. So he goes with a punch. You know, I go to block it, get ready to counter. But it was one of those, you know, punch high, go low, change levels. Took me down to the ground. And since in wrestling, as a wrestler, you could fight on the ground, but a wrestler doesn't want to have his back on the ground. I was like, nope, can't get on the ground. I got a quick turnover to get back up to my feet. Well, you know, everybody's probably heard of the rear naked choke, but he climbed up on me like a spider monkey, got his arm in there.
Like a spider monkey.
I went to sleep. Not because I wasn't going to tap. I was like, no, I can get out of this. Because at the time, you know, I'm thinking I'm big and strong. I could just muscle my way out of it. So I'm like, I'm going to get out of this. No problem. Next thing I know, I'm like, I'm waking up. I'm like, did I win? Like, humbled.
I've never been choked out. I've been knocked out. But what's that feeling like? I bet it's just like... Yeah. What you're struggling one moment and then you're kind of like you're waking up from a nap the next.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is, because there is no transition. You're fighting. There's like a little bit of panic, like, oh shit, I'm not I don't know. And then all of a sudden you're just waking up. Struggle, panic, and then you're calm because you're waking up from a nap. You know what I mean? And you have no idea what's going on. So it's that quick, that transition.
You and I are both military, ex-military even. I'm British ex-military. I was in a regiment called the Grenadier Guards. So those are the people who stand outside the palaces, red jackets, big furry hats. But that's only quarter of our job. The rest of our job, other than that, is frontline infantry. I did 4 years. I left after I came home from Afghanistan. That was back in 2010. But you have a very specific time frame. Like you've got it down to the minute.
So I was Air Force for 20 years, 1 month and 11 days. I was only stationed at 2 bases, Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas, and Osan Air Base in Korea. During my time, I had gone TDY, which is temporary tour of duty. So bouncing from one base to another, doing a job 76 different times. And I deployed once for a little bit over 6 months out to Ali Al Salim Air Base in Kuwait.
And what year was
did
that?
A lot of traveling. So 2003, the middle of Operation Enduring Freedom. So I went out there. I ended up being pulled into doing what they refer to as security forces augmentee, turned into something more than that. So I started off doing base defense for the ECPs, the control points, but then I ended up getting promoted. I was part of the roving units that would go out into some not so nice areas and, you know, say some not so nice things to make sure that other people were safe.
Wait, that's a promotion?
Essentially, I went from just standing at a gate. Now it's like the potential for something to happen is higher. So a little bit more, well, actually a lot more responsibility because I had to interact with a lot of the locals.
Did they give you language cards?
Yeah. So they did. They did give us the paper. That's correct.
Was it because we had like a proper language card, right? So it was a little booklet and then it opens up. And then you have like flip sheets on each one and it's got pictures next to it. So you can be like, we're looking for this. And you just point to the picture and it's got the phonetics because we were taught a little bit of Pashto, which is what they speak over there. We're integrated, I guess you would say, right?
By the time you went out there in 2010, a lot of things were much more efficient. It was better because when I went in 2003, they gave us one little pamphlet, right? It wasn't even like multiple pages. It was front and back. Ooh. And it had just a few lines on it and it was Arabic. Everything was in Arabic, but there were no pictures on there either. It was just whatever it was in English. And then of course the squiggly lines that I couldn't read. We didn't have GPS and the maps weren't always updated correctly to represent where we were. It was incredibly stressful. So what I ended up doing was I would talk to the translators, the Kuwaiti translators, and I was learning phrases in Arabic so that I could talk to the locals. Since at the time I had this beautiful military mustache going across.
You gotta love the poo stash.
People thought I was Arabic when I was out there because I was really dark because I was in the sun all day, had my little mustache going on, and I was speaking the language. So I didn't really have too many issues out there. Yeah, by the time you went out, it was better.
It changed so much because we were because obviously I was was Afghanistan, you were Kuwait, which is for the Iraq operation, right?
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was 100 miles outside of Baghdad.
Back in 2007, they were allowed to grow like beards, right? So when you're out in the field, you can grow a beard. Once you come back to the rear, you do all your what we call admin. You can actually eat full meals. There's showers, but just get yourself organized essentially to go then back out. So we would do a month rural and a month urban. They were allowed to grow beards while they were out in the fobs. Have you ever seen a film called War Machine with Brad Pitt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about this 5-star general who goes out to Afghanistan. He takes over the entire command. This one mission in particular, and it's called Mosh Tarak. And the idea is that you start at one point, and then you drive the enemy out. It's kind of like a coordinated push from the center of it, like a nucleus, and then each unit will kind of push out of those areas to clear of any enemy combatants or influence or anything like that. So that was his idea, I believe, but he came with a load of different caveats. So because we were kind of like losing our momentum, you know, the whole idea, speed, aggression, momentum, whatever that saying is. I don't think we've got that in the British Army. We've got an idea of it, but it's not that. He came in and he essentially went, right, well, you know, all these guys, they look really undisciplined. That's why we're losing the war. Like he came in with all these some of them real stupid ideas. And that's what the film paints him as, is kind of like a joke. And he said, right, all the guys need to shave. I don't want to see any facial hair because they're undisciplined and it's reminiscent of Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what he said. But the problem is, look at me, I'm nearly see-through. When I was 20, I couldn't grow any facial hair. I could grow just a bit of what we call bum fluff. I don't know what you call it out there.
Oh,
like
bum fluff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys...
I'm using that now. Bum fluff.
I should have kept that to the end of the stream. It's not facial hair. It's kind of when you first hit puberty and you get like those little strands. Do you have a word for that?
Peach fuzz.
Peach fuzz. Actually, that's the same. Because like, what do you use as an emoji for a butt?
Peach.
You use a peach. The same thing, you know? You're just 10 steps ahead in the future. America.
Let's go.
In Afghan culture, if you don't have facial hair, you're considered a boy. Like it's a maturity thing. So no one respected us. Obviously, we were in a different time because it went from war fighting to like hearts and minds where we were trying to win over the influence. But we were in this middle ground, this transitional period, and it just became like a mess. And that's why that film exists. And he's painted as a kind of an idiot. But also, because we were all these clean-shaven me's, you know, we just didn't get any. I got propositioned by a commander, you know.
Really?
I got propositioned by a commander. I've got many embarrassing stories. We need to get into some embarrassing stories.
Okay, player. It was probably because you're exotic. You're like exotic to them.
Yeah, you think I'm doing the erotic dance for my friends. So the story goes, I was doing helicopter ops. I was an infantry escort for like the Afghan National Army, Afghan National Police, and some of the British units. And we were sat down. And when we were sat down in just waiting for the helicopter, he's like, yeah, when we get to the fob, you come back to my office. And I was super naive back then. I was like, oh no, I've got to meet up with my superior. And he's like, no. When we get back to the fob, you come to my office. I was like, oh, what time's the helicopter leaving?
He's like, relax. We only need 7 minutes.
7 minutes in heaven.
That's it. That's all you need.
I bet you didn't get proposition like that because of your gorgeous mustache.
I do have a story, but I wasn't propositioned by a guy. It was actually one of the translators. When it was time for me to leave, they didn't want me to leave, so they tried to recruit me. I was speaking English and Arabic, and I was doing a lot of the Arabic traditions that they have to kind of make it easier for them to accept me. You know what I mean? So I did Ramadan, and I would eat with them on the floor. And I'm left-handed by trade, but I made sure to use my right hand to make sure I didn't disrespect. So I was doing all of the things. So they were trying to recruit me. What had happened was I'm getting ready to leave, and I'm telling them, hey, I'm saying my goodbyes. And the guy who was in charge was like, hey, we don't want you to go. Stay here with us. What we'll do is you can work for us, and we'll pay you whatever they're paying you in America, but it'll be in Kuwaiti dinars. And at the time, it was like $3.85 American equaled 1 Kuwaiti dinar. And I was like, no, I can't. I gotta go. I have a contract. I gotta go back. And the guy was like, wait. She got serious. He's like, listen, we want you to stay. Okay. We will pay you, whatever they pay you American,
Yeah.
but in Kuwaiti dinar, and I will give you one of my daughters. I was like, are you what? He was like, you can marry my daughter and you can have this job. We want you to stay. And I was like, well, hold up, bro. No, I'm good. Thank you very much. You know, because in America, we're like, bro, you don't just give somebody a daughter like that. You know, it's a cultural difference. I was like, no, 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 thank you. I'm good. Thank you so much. I'm honored. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I can't accept this. So he looks at me, right? And he gets real serious. He's like, okay, you drive a hard bargain. We will pay you American number in Kuwaiti dinars. I will let you marry my daughter.
Yeah.
You will have my daughter, and I will give you a camel. I was like, a camel, right? So I'm like, what are you talking about? A camel?
The daughter and the camel.
Yes, right. So I was like, holy shit, they really want me, right? I was like, well, but thank you, I appreciate it. But in my head, I'm like, a camel? What am I going to do with a camel? So I tell this story later to another Kuwaiti officer, right, that I was hanging out with, and he was like, wait a second, he offered you a camel? I was like, yeah, man, can you believe that? What am I going to do with a camel? And he's like, and you said no? So now it's starting to dawn on me, like, what are you talking about? And then he explained to me, he was like, listen, man, he's like, money, his job is a job, right? He said, if he offers the daughter, it's like he's trying to bring you into the family. Like, that's an honorable thing. But when they give you the camel, like, the camel was an incredibly important creature, right? It represented life. Like, it was a very serious thing. So that was, out of the three things he offered, the camel was the most important tool that they tried to use to recruit me.
Again, so many things to unpack. Okay, 1, the camel stands above the daughter in this equation. 2, you didn't take the deal. 3, you burnt that guy. He's probably sat down. He's probably sat down on his Q80 sofa right now, being like, "That beautiful American. It haunts me every day that he turned me down." His daughter's like, Dad, there'll be another one. He goes, there'll never be another one.
I offered him a camel. He did not take the camel.
The camel is in like this golden bale of hay just in the corner of the room, just like adorned. What was the job? I'm not.
It's yeah, so it was. No, it was just the same thing I was doing. It was like base security. But what made it easier was that, as I said before, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I speak English fairly well. And not only that, I was doing I was learning the nuance of the culture to make sure that, I was able to navigate. So they were just impressed by my performance. So I would have been doing the same job, except I would have been, working for them during the time.
Were you married at this time?
Yeah, I regret it because now I'm divorced. I'm like, bro, I could have a camel right now too. You know what I'm saying?
You could be living like an Arabian king out there. Do you ever think about going back just to be like, hey, is your offer still good?
Oh, well, not for the offer, but I definitely want to go back. He's like, I can't believe it. Can you believe I offered this guy a camel and he still said no?
How difficult did you find it to learn Arabic? You were embedded, right? Did that make it easier?
First off, if you already speak another language or you've tried to learn another language, then picking up Arabic will be a little bit easier. It's one of the easier languages that I tried to learn. There are some tones that are very difficult. There's one, I forget what this phrase means. I think it's like, do you have a phone? Like, there's that sound like
a glottal stop.
It's like, so there are some sounds that we don't use in English that are difficult to learn. So there are some tones that can be difficult, but overall the language is not as difficult to learn as, say, Vietnamese. Like, that shit was tough. Even learning some Japanese was a little more complicated. And then the Arabic alphabet, it was actually relatively easy to learn how to read. I was able to identify the words and be able to read it. It took me about a few weeks. To learn. A few weeks, yeah. In order to learn, because it's when they break it down for you, it's easy to recognize what things look like. So I was able to link it to letters in English. So I was able to read it and understand it, and then being able to learn to speak it came pretty fast. Out of the languages that in the different countries that I've been to, Arabic was one of the easier ones to pick up.
It sounds like you've worked out a formula to learn languages quite well. Is that from being traveled, and do you have like a technique to just kind of generally learn different languages?
One, so my grandmother speaks Spanish, so hearing Spanish and being able to understand another language makes it a little bit easier for me to pick up other languages, because I'm used to hearing something other than English. What really helps was actually video games. So focusing on the audio cues and video games, and then being able to differentiate between the sounds and what those sounds mean in a video game. I use that same technique when I'm learning languages. So if I can't read the language, I pay very close attention to the sounds.
Right.
And then that's how I learn a lot of my phrases until I'm able to, if they can teach me to read it. For real. Audio cues and video games.
When you say video games, right?
Hmm.
Like cues in video games, right? Sound cues in video games. What do you mean by that? Because what I'm imagining is you're hearing like a sword clang, and you're like, ah, bonjour.
So the paying attention to the sound cues in video game, there's like a connection to where if I hear a sound in a video game, I can connect it to a movement, and then I can connect sound to time. So if I hear a sound, I know that there's a specific amount of time before I need to react to something. So when I listen to someone speak, I pay attention to their speech patterns,
Right.
and I'll hear the sound, and then I can hear the time, like how long they're using the specific sound, and then I will mimic what I hear, and that's how I learn my specific phrases.
I've never thought about learning a language kind of going just off those kind of like sound cues, kind of like the end of a certain syllable or word moving into the next one, because then you have a predisposed knowledge about what the next word's going to be just based off that sound. That's super interesting. I would have never have thought that. You know what? I'm gonna get my head into what's that app? What's that? The one with the owl?
Duolingo.
Yeah, I'm gonna get myself into Duolingo. Yeah. We're gonna be conversing in Arabic, sipping tea next week. I swear to God, we're going international, my guy.
It also helps to have a reason to learn. So if you have some sort of inspiration, some reason in order to learn that language, that also helps out a lot.
You like to travel, right?
You know, like when this question comes up, I always get a little uncomfortable because I'm like, yo, bro, I don't want to be that guy. But yeah, I've been to 26
name drop
26 countries, I think now.
Oh geez, I've definitely not been to that many countries. I feel like I've traveled, right? But at the same time, a lot of that I feel like, especially with the military, that was a big point in my life where I did a lot of traveling. But I feel like because that's confined into the point where sometimes you're not intaking that culture, right? So if you go to a different country, I feel I liken it to going on like an all-inclusive hotel stay in Mexico. You're not really integrating into what that culture actually is, and it might be kind of like a Disney version of it, if that makes sense. Not fake. I don't want to say fake, right?
It's censored. It's
censored. Yeah, better word. You have the words, my guy. Your vocabulary is
just that one time. That's it.
When I talk to people about what I've done in my life, and I'm sure it's the same for you. Like I've had a lot of different experiences with being in the military, the jobs that I've done in the past, becoming like an editor like I am now, or doing acting, and now I'm a streamer.
Right.
I'm sure it's the same for you, like 20 years military, and now you're a streamer and you dress up. If anyone didn't see, by the way, and this is, I don't know if this is going to go out in the podcast, for anyone who hasn't seen already, go back at the date today is the 23rd of the 3rd, 2022, about 3 days ago. Trindominus was on stream as one of the little sisters from BioShock. If you haven't seen the VOD, please do go check it out because it is illuminating to say the least. I feel like you were living for that. You know what I mean? I feel like you looked hella comfortable. You're like, this is me today, and I am repping this style.
It's confidence.
It's pure confidence.
100%. I was so uncomfortable, but it's confidence. I figured too, the way I look at it, some of that stuff is like, you get to have a little fun, and if it brings some brightness to somebody else's day, then it makes it worth it. So, that's what the people on the stream wanted to see, and they support my efforts. They support my crazy. So it was fine. It was easy for me.
Ellie, you look great, by the way.
Man, I think the most uncomfortable part was the hair, because I don't know if you guys know, I'm bald. I was like, oh my God, what is all this?
What have you seen the Witcher wig that I've got? I can't deal with it. It's honestly, I'm trying to grow my hair out because I want to grow it out before I lose it. It's a wig, right? It's synthetic hair. It doesn't fall naturally. It doesn't have any weight to it. But I keep finding it. Like I'll go and eat dinner and it'll be in the bowl. I'm like, how did that get there?
So everything was the same. I just looked really pretty.
You did.
I was like, damn, pink looks good on me. I said, this looks really good.
Have you done any other cosplays for your stream?
I've gotten painted, with Arlene from Expressive Facial Creation. So she's painted me as Darth Maul before. She painted my face as the Predator for one stream. So I was talking jazz one time.
Right.
And then King of Fury was talking about wearing a blue wig. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm confident enough. So he ended up sending me the infamous blue wig, that I wore in stream. So yeah. I had the blue wig, and then Arlene came over and then painted me up, and then I was looking beautiful.
I saw the Kratos cosplay. on your Instagram. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I should do it. But then I saw you, and I was like, hell no. If anyone hasn't
No,
seen it,
just
go and check his
go
Instagram
for it.
out, because my goodness, you fit the bill so well. Like if somebody,
yeah,
Warner Brothers or who else, Paramount, Disney, whoever's making the God of War movie, Trindominus is your guy. Forget about the Stargate SG-1 dude, who actually
man, I
voices
got you.
him. Just
Got you.
it suits
Got
you.
you.
But also you wear, like you say, you wear many hats, which is which is the Uwu girl. I'm gonna call it the
Yeah.
Uwu girl. It's not the little sister. I don't see it as that. I'm sorry.
It was supposed to be little sister, but then as I started playing, I was like, wait a second, little sister's not wearing cat ears. Then I was like, I think Lady just put in a little joke there. Just wanted to see me looking like a maid cafe.
I want to ask, because we've had a few questions in from chat. How did you make that transition to streaming?
The way that I went about it is a little bit different, because I was a competitive gamer, and I went to this tournament called Iron Man of Gaming 2008, I believe. And while I was a competitor, I was doing the same thing that I'm doing now. Like, I was having a great time, I was being hype, but I was also really good at video games. I had placed really high in some of the previous games. It was a tournament that was like 12 hours a day over 4 days. It was a big ass tournament. But I was placing pretty well, but I was generating excitement because I was loud. I was able to talk, and I was also pretty good at the games. So I came in first place, and not only did I come in first place, I had won 35 matches straight. And then while winning, I was being loud. I was having fun. Like, I was generating hype. So the owner of the company at the time, the company was called Screw Attack, and the owner was known as Stuttering Craig. And him and Chad James had said, hey, we want to work with this guy. And all they wanted me to do was hang out, play some Street Fighter against some people, and just bring energy. But then I also took over the dance portion of the DJ. Like, I was doing crowd surfing. I had the crowd hype, and then I started talking to the DJs. Like, it just got ridiculous. And then that kind of just snowballed into what eventually became SGC, which was like a gaming convention for Screw Attack. And then I became one of like the keynote speakers. Twitch was a nice transition because I was doing the convention scene while I was still in the service, because there's an energy that's created from interacting with people who share your passion. Being in the service, when I joined the service, video games were not cool the way that they are now. I would take the leave when I could, and then Twitch was a way to maintain a connection with the people who were going to the convention. So if I couldn't see them at a con, then I could at least interact via the interwebs. I figured I might as well just give it the old college go and see if I can grow it into something else, because my goal is to use the platform as a means to connect with other people and share whatever knowledge I have so that they can do better, like achieve more, and then figure out a way to use this platform to connect with people in real life, whether it's through Free Play Florida, which is a convention we have here in Florida that I'm a huge part of. I can create that space where people can feel comfortable to be themselves. I too was that young, smelly, awkward kid. I didn't know how to speak to people. I made the transition to try and put all of my energy into it to see if I can turn it into something and have it as a way to interact with people and at least give them a place to go where they can say, you know what, this guy seems pretty cool. He's traveled. He's a cool guy, and we can talk nerd stuff. So maybe I'm okay the way that I am. That's my goal.
And I think that stands kind of testament to who you are and the way that you present yourself. It's one of the things that I noticed about you. You're talking about the stream being like a community space, somewhere where somebody can go and be themselves, not be judged, and have like-minded people around them. I think that's more important, to have that community of like-minded people. That's why we connect with others, and that's, I think, what we connect with others for. And I feel like the space that I try and foster for whatever this stream is just that. The thing that made me gravitate towards you was obviously through your mod Blue. I think she asked me to raid you, and I was like, I took a look at your stream and I was like, hell yes. I remember seeing your stream and I was like, this guy is super sweet. It seems like a really nice place, and your production quality of your stream, the way that you converse with you. So I love the way that you drop knowledge bombs. Can you sing the thing for me when you say some things?
What I do is I say, when it gets ready, I hit a button, boom, and then I'm like, da 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 da. Angel says some things.
Beautiful.
Boom.
Beautiful. It's like you try and find your people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And finding your people is, I think, everyone needs purpose. You know I do. I work too much either on this or at work. I'm like, I need that purpose to carry on. Much like that, I feel like everyone needs people, you know what I mean? To find their people, the people that they connect with. And I feel like that was a long journey. Like going back to the military thing, I thought that was my thing. I thought that was my people. But when I look back on it now, I'm like, that wasn't my people. I'm very different. So when people are like, oh shit, you were in the military? You don't seem like it. I'm like, yeah, because I feel like it's a different chapter in my life, but I also feel like looking back on it, not that I regret it, it wasn't me, you know? Like I don't know about you, but I feel so much more comfortable in myself, a lot more confident in myself. And I feel like I found something that I feel like, I'm like, hell, why didn't I find this 10 years ago? I don't know. Does that any of that kind of resonate with you?
No, all of that resonates. So a lot of what you see now, the person that I am now, was born out of extreme trauma. It's, it's basically it. Being ostracized, made fun of, bullied, all the things, and then putting that critical mind to try and understand life, people, myself, and then making the change. And a lot of the techniques come from video games. I say this all the time, and I would give speeches in the service about this, but video games gives us a lot of techniques in order to improve. I wasn't a loner by choice. A lot of the problems I ran into were caused by me. So as I said before, I didn't know how to interact. I was enjoying content from the wrong decades. And then since I was so self-conscious, I would spend a lot of time. I used to be a terrible liar. You know, I would say and lie about whatever I thought would make people think I was cool. And nobody ever likes that. And then I would pretend to be like, you know, something that I wasn't. And then I would also mimic whoever the cool person was. So if they had a certain laugh, I would laugh the same way. If they liked something, I would like what they liked. You know, acting like that, even though it was me just trying to find a way to connect, it actually repelled people away from me. Like, yo, I don't like this guy. He's fake. We can't trust him. But something you said about not truly being able to be yourself was also interesting, because my person was segregated, because I couldn't be the video game nerd wanting to cosplay and do, you know, LARPing, whatever, like, oh, we're gonna make a kung fu flick. You know, I couldn't do that while I was in the service, right? Because those military guys are a certain way. So I would have, you know, people I'd hang out with, we'd play video games, and you know, we do our kung fu flicks and all that shit, but it wouldn't bleed into the service. So when I put that uniform on, it was like, boom, I got to be this way.
What is the most fun you've ever had in gaming?
Wow, that's a good question. Probably SGC 2015. Because at that time we had a live audience. 2,000 people is sitting in the room. Like 2,000 people could fit in that room. It was ridiculous. And then we had, I think it was over 10,000 people watching concurrently. The most fun I had, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I was able to work the crowd. And everybody they were in it. So like they were feeling whatever I said, the energy, they felt the energy. So it felt like we could do no wrong. And while I was doing that, my daughter is in the crowd watching me, you know, because I'm just her dad. You know what I mean? Regardless of what I achieve, I'm just her dad. But watching her dad on stage do all of this, and I'm speaking the language of the nerd, and we're all on that moment, just being loud and having a good time. So that was probably the most fun I had, because it was just, I was happy the entire 72 hours. And then the most fun with gaming would have been that Street Fighter while I was playing as the MC. The crowd just kind of gravitated to wherever I was going. And I took them to the arcade section, and we were doing Street Fighter 5 had just come out. Because of the energy, the ridiculous energy I created on stage, every time I would do with Zangief, I'd do a spinning pile driver, I would scream, and then they would scream. So now the guy who's playing with me is getting nervous unnecessarily.
Oh, you were like proper psych. You were using what's it called, psyops on the dude.
Oh no, I was, like, especially if they were better. But I knew I was better under pressure. So the crowd would get hype. I'm yelling, they're yelling. This guy's getting nervous, so he's making mistakes. So then it becomes this slippery slope.
Holy shit.
It was great. It was great being on stage with my daughter, seeing me do what I do and feeling that energy was great. But I think the most impactful was actually 2010. Part of the reason why I joined the service, outside of wanting to have something to be a part of, to feel proud, like, oh, I'm actually doing something, was I wanted to use the military in order to get to Japan.
Like to move there, or to just visit and see their culture?
I wanted to move there, live there, Like I wanted to be in that Japanese life, and I couldn't see a path to do that outside of the military. So I joined the military in hopes to get there, and it never happened. But in 2010, after I'd been working with Screw Attack and doing my the gaming conventions, Screw Attack flew me out to Japan just so that I could make content with them, playing against the Japanese, eating Japanese food, hanging out with them, being myself, being the director of awesome. As soon as we landed, I was incredibly emotional, was that I made it to Japan because of video games. So I was able to be my authentic self, and I was doing something that I was passionate about as a result of my passion and video games. That was probably the most impactful moment I've had in gaming.
One thing I do want to talk about, you mentioned before, was Director of Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You're known as Trindominus. That's what you tend to go by on most social media platforms. Director of Awesome, was that like an old account? Was that an old handle? Because I've heard this a few times on your stream, and I don't really have reference for it.
So the Director of Awesome was, first it started off when I joined up with Screw Attack. They actually called me Mr. Enthusiastic because I would create all of this energy. I would do something, and the guys were always like, "Oh man, that's pretty awesome." And then I believe it was Craig was just like, "Oh, we're gonna call you the Director of Awesome." Craig or Chad, I don't remember exactly.
Let's say it's Chad, because that sounds boss.
Yeah, right. So Chad was like, "This is gonna be your name. This is what we're gonna call you now." So they called me the Director of Awesome. Like that was my tag for everywhere that I went. Then when I decided to go full on, I had to do a rebrand because Screw Attack kind of went away because they were bought by another company and then it was dissolved. So I had to do a rebrand, and I wanted to try and branch into something else. And then Trindominus came to mind because I wanted to have something that had my daughter's name into it. That's where the Trin comes in for Trinity.
Oh, see, I never knew that.
She's the motivation for everything that I do. So I try and have these adventures and everything else so that I can have stories to tell her, that I can learn lessons to teach her so that she grows up to have a better life than me. I also want her to be better than me, if that makes sense, because I want, my perspective is each generation should be better than the previous, which I've done successfully because she is much smarter than I was at that age. She's much cooler. She actually has friends. She takes showers. So, but that's where the trend comes from. Dominus. I like the way that, because if you were a master at a craft, that's where Dominus would come from, the master of. So Trindominus, putting it together, is that I'm trying to be the master of the three phases of life: the mind, body, and then that powerful soul, whether that be through using knowledge to be great at games and using knowledge to be good in life. So that's why on my stream, we'll have these where I'm breaking down a video game, where we're just talking about random stuff, where we'll talk about food, diet, and exercise, or we'll talk about theory and philosophy and go on these other levels. It's like we're hanging out, and then, when you hang out with your friends, you guys just talk about random stuff. Like the video game is the medium by which we're able to connect to other things. I'm trying to master these different parts of what it means to be a person and a gamer. And then, of course, I wanted to have my daughter's name there. So when I look at it, I'm like, no, I have to do the best I can for her. I can't be a piece of shit. I got to be good. You know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
That's why.
Man. No, genuinely, I feel like not just myself, but the people in chat, I feel like that touched me, man. Like you were saying these words, and I felt like I could hear that inspirational music from those Goldcast videos on Facebook. That just,
thank you.
That was in my mind. That was genuinely beautiful, and it's your endeavor, right? This is your thing. This is your passion. But to have that in mind, where you're bettering yourself and you're doing things for the sake of your child, the person who's going to come after you, and trying to set a good example. That's really beautiful, man. You almost got me. You almost got me, genuinely. And then you cracked a joke, and I was like, there we go. There, I'm back in the room. I know this story, but I want the stream to hear. I want everyone to hear. You're the same hot dog guy. You know the story.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let me ask this in the form of a question. Like I've researched, like I'm going to do the I'm going to try and do the Sean Evans thing. So I've heard you're a connoisseur of food, and you're a New Yorker, which inherently means that you like the things like pizza. You go to Little John's on the corner, but there's always that guy outside the building. And I've heard that you're a big fan of the classic New York hot dog. And I hear that you've you frequented a couple of these places from time to time. So can you tell me your worst or maybe funniest experience with one of these hot dog men?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that I'm happy you brought that up, but let me go ahead and share a story. Sometimes when I didn't know how to act and I wanted to be cool, I would just do something I saw in a movie. You know, there was a hot dog guy who came. I was like, oh man, this is pretty cool. And I would always watch the cool kids and how the cool kids would talk. And like the cool kids had a place where they would stand. And I was like, this is going to be an opportunity for me to shine. So I went there, I got a hot dog one day. The next day, I go up and I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to do because I see it in the movies. And you know how you see in the movies, sometimes people go into a restaurant and they were like, hey, I'll just have the usual, right? And you're like, oh shit, I'll have the usual. And they know what the usual is. This person must be important. So I'm like, this is a prime time opportunity for me to use that line. The guy will know what I want and it'll instantly give me cred because this adult will know what my usual is, which means I must be important. I roll up there, you know, and I'm making a big scene like, yeah, I'm gonna go get this hot dog. And that's how I talk when I was in the city, right? It's all like, yo, check this out. I'm about to go get me something to eat. You know what I'm saying? Go get this grub. It's gonna be great. So I'm trying to speak loud to make sure that people can hear me, right? The cool kids, the pretty girls, I want all the attention because I'm about to do some dope shit. So I go up there and I talk to the guy and he was all like, hey man, so what is it that you want? And I was like, oh, I'll just have the usual. And he looks at me and he's like, I don't know what the fuck your usual is. What is it that you want? You know, there's a lot of kids come here. What do you want? I was like, oh shit. It didn't dawn on me that this guy might actually say that he doesn't know what I want. Right. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just have a hot dog with sauerkraut and spicy mustard, please. But the damage was already done, right? Because apparently he needed to match how loud I was. So when he crushed me, everybody heard. The pretty girls, the cool kids, the nerds on the side that were all by themselves. Everybody heard and everybody laughed. So I got my hot dog. I paid for my hot dog. I walked alone and I sat by myself and I was like, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. So this was my moment to shine, but I didn't shine. I got smashed and I felt really dumb. Thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, whoever brought that up. Jesus.
Yeah.
This is a really short story, but it was so embarrassing for me. So, like I said, I tried to be such a cool kid when I was younger that I would do things to try and impress people as a bit of a show off, if you can't tell. I mean, I know I'm a really humble, kind of calm, stoic guy, but I used to like to think I had a No Fear t-shirt. You remember No Fear? They were like
oh yeah.
So I had one of those t-shirts. I think I got it from Turkey when I went on holiday there once. And I thought I was the shit. Like I used to love rocket power. So I was always like, oh, I'm in rocket power. So after I got this t-shirt from Turkey, I was like, fuck, I'm like a pro. I'm like Tony Hawk. I'm like Matt Hoffman. There's a city called Bath that's about 13, 14 miles away from the city that I'm from, which is Bristol. And there's a big park. It's like a crescent on the top. And then it's just a hill that goes down to like the road. So what we would do, we had these like mountain bikes. And so, you know, we're about 13, 14, razzing down the hill, being nuisances, you know, going around the people. But because you're going faster than your little 13-year-old self has ever gone before, you're like, fuck, I am hot shit. And then I started to get cocky and I started to do the skids. The only thing is that the last time that I did it, and it's the reason it's the last time, is I started to skid and I couldn't control it. And I hit, it like went from grass, which was obviously, you know, obviously got like not a lot of traction, so you can slide really well on, to the pathway, which is concrete, which will grip straight away in high side. And there was a dog poo bin that I just slammed into. The lid popped up and like the dog poo bags did a little jump. The park, because it was on a cone and it was in the center, everyone could see it happen. And in my mind, the whole park erupted in laughter. And I was like, no, my best mate was on his bike going, you've just crashed into a dog poo bin. Like that kind of thing. I was mortified. So I like cycling away crying. I was mortified. It was like hundreds of people in that park all just saw me smash into a dog shit bin.
Oh, they were all laughing.
They were all laughing. It's 100%. The fact that like my mate still reminds me, same mate who bought me that t-shirt, by the way, all the memories of him. It's the fact that the poo jumped out, like the bags, because it's all in bags. So it just looked like a little hop and the lid went, whoop.
You know, friends don't let you forget stuff like that.
No, this one friend won't let me forget stuff.
Yeah, it just sticks with you.
Maybe I got to stop hanging around with him because he seems like a bad luck charm. I'm pretty chill the rest of the time. I'm sure I'll be in bed tonight and I'll just be like looking up at the ceiling and then it'll just all come flooding back. Every memory that I've repressed has come back.